Okay. Alright, so in the last few coaching sessions, we worked on the quality of your modeling. And in the last few lessons I've been in, you've been consistently modeling when you introduce a new skill or when you're reteaching or reiterating a thought process. So what's been the impact of you regularly using modeling?
Students can name all the steps of a problem, and I also have go-to steps too. Whenever I'm like circulating, I can be like, oh, you need to do step 1, like check omit. And so they have like an instant go-to. So
I didn't even think about that when you're circulating, just to name that one thinking step. That's great. Awesome to see you do that in class. Today, I want to dive into how you respond to the data you collect, because another thing we worked on was aggressive monitoring, and you're consistently doing that also. Now we're going to take it next level. What do you do when you have data? So first, we're going to watch a video. And just to frame this video, and reviewing the student work, the teacher noticed there was a consistent common mistake or a consistent distractor, which I know you probably often see with your multiple choice questions, so that's why I was zooming in on this. So while we watch the video, I want you to answer this question. I'm going to write it down so you have it. What key moves does the teacher execute to have the students identify the error and then build the solution? So I'll say that again. What key moves does the teacher execute? Well, you can put it here if you don't have more rooms. This is for your strengths. What key moves does the teacher execute to have students identify the error and then build the solution? I'm going to put this back over here so we can watch it on a big screen, bigger screen I should say. Little kids, but you're still gonna get the idea. I'm not sure if I've shown you this video before or not.
Help and evaluation, because Ms. Rodriguez and I saw 2 common answers for flag 1. So for flag 1, we have the black, white, and gray. And I wrote in gray since I don't have a gray one. Say that's okay. So I did that for each one. So for black, we saw a lot of 1 part's black. For white, 1 part white. And for gray, 1 part gray. That can start. And then also saw for black, 1/3 black, 1/3 white, and 1/3 gray. That can start. I see a lot of evaluation already. I want to know which one you agree with, the one we'll call it option 1 on this side, or option 2 on this side. I'm looking to see who has great mathematical explanation in their turn it on. Let's quickly poll. Who agrees with option 1? Who agrees with option 2? Then someone talk to me. Who wants to talk to me? Who wants to talk? Alicia, get us started.
I think option 2 is right, because option 2 says 1/3, and 1/3 is 1 part of 3. And I agree, it's 1 part of 3. And I agree because it said, because we need 1 part, and I disagree with number 1, because number 1 doesn't make any sense, because we don't know how much are you taking it from.
Who would like to talk to me about option 1? Because she said option 2 is correct. Who wants to talk to me about why they think option 1 is not correct? You did, yeah?
Option 1 is not correct, because if you count how many parts are on the back, you will have 3 parts. And option 1, the person just put 1 on each part, and the other
he executed to have students identify the error and then build the solution?
So he named like the two most common answer choices so that they knew what the error was, which kind of normalized it for the kids who got it wrong, but also like narrowed it down to just two for them to compare. So then he asked them to compare them, the answer and the biggest distractor, and have them evaluate about which one's right and why. And then he has the students name the reasoning and explanation for the correct answer.
Awesome. I would say after he had them turn and talk specifically to debrief the answer, and then he polled the room. What's the impact of polling the room?
Every student has to respond, so every student has to think about which one's right.
Right, it's just another way for you also to check for like whole group understanding too. So when you respond to data, what method do you most frequently use? Like when most kids miss a question, what's the most common thing you usually do?
Go over that specific question and try to talk about why the answer is what it is.
Right, you model it, which is good. I mean, this is something that you worked on this year, and so you clearly are modeling it, but what's the disadvantage of only using modeling?
Students might, it gets repetitive over time. And so you're gonna get sick and tired of seeing the same thing over and over again. And B, it's more passive for them. There's no like accountability for like your brain being on during that time.
They're not identifying the error or building the solution. Alright, so when you collect data, this is we're talking about your action steps now. So when you're collecting data and you're walking around and you see there's a consistent mistake or a consistent distractor, what is your action step? How are you gonna respond?
Name what the common error is and the biggest distractor, and have students compare the two answers, discuss which one's correct and why, and then poll the room and then have them explain their reasoning.
Perfect.
Sorry.
That was perfect. I would say present, this is what I have. The what I have in response to data, use guided discourse. That's what it's called. In response to data, use guided discourse. To have students identify the error and build the solution. And there's 4 parts to the how, which you named, but the first is present the 2 work samples using show call. Second is turn and talk. Third is poll the room. And the 4th, this is where I broke it down a little more. Call in a medium student, then a high student to build, then a low student to stamp the key error and solution. Awesome. When you're done writing that, can you roll that back to me and read it back to me? Let's make sure we're on the same page for practice.
Yes. So guided discourse in response to data, having students identify the error and build a solution. The 4 steps are present 2 work samples using show call, then have students turn and talk, then poll the room, and then the last portion you call in a medium student to answer, then a high student to build off of that with like explanation and reasoning, then a low student to stamp the key error in the solution.
What's going to be the impact of that 4th step in particular?
You are going to have like the low student's going to feel very confident answering, but also like they'll have a verbal reminder and they might have been one of the people struggling. The high student will provide a great explanation, and we won't be calling on like the same 5 kids who always want to answer them because like they have them right every time.
Great. All right. So let's practice this with some of your exit tickets from today. Thank you for bringing those. So here's the goal. What I'd like to do is find a question or exit ticket that has a clear distractor, so that way you can practice this tomorrow after the do now. Okay. So let's look for, I can give you 5 minutes, and you look through those and try to find the one that's frequently missed and that there's a common distractor for, kind of like how we do with the IAs. I'll give you 5 minutes to do that. let's look at number 22 then. So what is the correct answer for 22 and what is the distractor?
The correct answer is J. The biggest distractor was G.
Okay,
So,
can I take a look at one of them?
yeah.
22. Correct answer is J and many students put G.
Mm-hmm.
Great, I think this is a good example, just because it's straight up redundant information. It says that in the first sentence. Okay, so what I want you to do is use the hows of your action step. Present the 2 work samples using show call, turn and talk, poll the room, and call in a medium, high, low to script out exactly what you're gonna say. So like, what are you gonna say about, to frame why we're doing this question? What is your turn and talk question? What do you say to poll the room? And what do you, who are you gonna call in for high, medium, low? For the sake of this, let's just use names for your 5th period. Think off the top of your head who might be a high, medium, and low when you're scripting that last part about calling on medium, high, and low. Okay. I'm gonna script 2 and then we'll change scripts and see what we can both add. trade. This
Sorry,
was a little,
my handwriting is
no,
very
you're good.
sloppy.
It's a little hard to have students build the solution because it's a multiple choice, but anyway, let's go ahead and look.
I like calling on them.
It's always, you have to scope out his attitude beforehand, but.
I know.
Awesome. Okay. One of the things that I liked you do is like definitely pausing to see where kids are at. That's a huge thing to do. And you're naming like these are the two distractors. Is there anything about mine that you would like to add or change in yours?
I like the process of elimination and reminding them about that because I think repetition is so important. In my brain, I was doing this like in the class, but I like going back to it the next day because I think that'll remind them of that. And that's like 2 minutes. That's literally just like a re-stamp of that lesson. So
Stephen does this almost every day after the do not. It's pretty effective.
that's awesome. I definitely want to do this. This is a good idea. And then the other thing, having the response ahead of time for why.
Right. And you don't always have to do this, but for me that's really helpful to make sure my question is good in the first place. Because sometimes if I can't write an ideal response, it's like, or sometimes if my response could be a number of things, I have to go back and refine the question to make sure that's the thing they're clearly going to land on.
Okay, awesome.
Great. So let's take a minute to practice this, like you will tomorrow. So I'm not going to have you stand and deliver, but let's go through the script like you would with this up under the doc cam.
Okay. We're going to go over number 22 because about 60% of us missed it yesterday on our exit ticket. I want us to zoom into the two most common answers. Almost all of us use process of elimination and eliminated F and H, which is great. But about half of us selected G and half of us selected J. I'm going to have us quickly read the question, then turn and talk to compare with our partner to decide which answer is better and why. I guess I'll give them a minute to turn and talk. Take a minute to turn and talk, decide which one. Alright, we're going to go ahead and vote. Raise your hand if you think G is correct. Raise your hand if you think J is correct. Haven, why is J the correct answer? Or Haven, which one is correct? And why? And then she's on J. Darius, can you build off of that? What steps did she use to get here? And then, Julian, can you please tell us what the common error was here? And why is J a better answer?
Perfect. So I think you have the flow of that, but let's go through it to make sure it sticks in your memory, because there was a point where you fumble a little bit over your turn and talk directions. So what are your turn and talk directions? Revisit that part of your script, and I have mine here too if it's helpful.
I'm going to have them read it with their partner, I think, instead of reading it out loud.
Okay, so go ahead and revise your script for a minute. So I revised it to say which answer is correct and why. Read the question with your partner and discuss for 1 minute. Go. How did you revise yours?
I said take 1 minute to turn and talk, to read the question together and decide which answer is better and why.
Perfect. Okay, let's take it from the top.
Alright, we're going to go ahead and zoom in on number 22 from our exit ticket yesterday, just so we can address a common error that I saw. Almost all of us used process of elimination and eliminated F and H, which is awesome. But we had a big distractor as well. About half of us selected G and half of us selected J. So we're going to take 1 minute. You're going to turn and talk with your partner to read the question together and decide which answer is better and why.
Good. Perfect. Keep going. So we turn and talk, blah, 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 blah. Now you bring it back.
1 minute. Alright, go ahead and bring it back, guys. I'm going to poll the room. Raise your hand if you think the correct answer is G. raise your hand if you think the correct answer is J. Great, Haven, which answer did you and your partner select as correct?
J.
And why did you select J, Darius?
Because it said old-fashioned, and earlier in the text they had already said old-fashioned, so it's redundant, or it's said twice, and you don't need to.
Awesome. Why is G incorrect? Why can't we choose G, Julian? What's the issue there?
Because we don't need to say that old-fashioned again, it's already there, it's redundant.
Exactly. So if we can eliminate redundant information, what should we do?
Eliminate it, we don't want to repeat ourselves.
Awesome.
Great. All right, so how is this practice going to improve your response to data?
I think that it's very meaningful because the kids always want to know how they did on their exit tickets, and it's better than just a percentage because it actually addresses a problem. Plus, it reminds them. And so they're getting like 2 lessons in one day.
Great. And this also isn't just always in response to exit tickets. Like, whenever you're seeing that like there's a clear distractor anytime in the lesson, sometimes Stephen will do it in the middle of IP. He'll be like, oh, guys, I noticed something. Everybody eyes up here when there's 2 distractors. So it's anytime you're seeing that there's like, again, like a clear distractor or like a all the way right or an almost right response. You can just pull up the 2 samples and have the kids build the solution there.
Awesome.
And what's going to be the impact of doing this in response to data in lieu of always just doing modeling?
They are going to build a solution on their own, which sticks better and it's more meaningful and there's more active participation.
Great. So I'm not going to be able to come in to video tomorrow, so I'm going to give you this camera actually and have you set it up
Okay.
and video it and just bring it back to me. You don't need to upload it or anything like that. So you turn this off. It's an old iPhone. This is the most efficient